All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. Before we start, please join us in a prayer.
Lord, as we begin. Okay, you can't. Can you hear me now? I would like to pray, but. All right, we'll start over here. Lord, as we begin to feel the seasons change, we thank you for the beautiful days, cooler weather, and we look forward to the changing leaves. We thank you for the continued commitment of our students and staff to learning and safety. We thank you for the families of our students for their support and patience in this ever-changing climate. We ask that you watch over us and be with these students and staff that are struggling emotionally. Help us to recognize those that need help and guide us to help where we can. Please watch over us this evening and give us the wisdom we need to make decisions for our schools. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Okay, with that, I'll call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda tonight is public comments. If anyone's here has comments regarding the agenda, please step up to the podium. We'll have 2 minutes to cover those topics.
Hi, my name is Lydia Wells. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the current Franklin Township trustee, and I'm just here to give you guys some information on what the trustees or the townships are doing in our area. I'm assuming everybody's familiar with what the township trustees do. Currently, there's 9 townships in Johnson County. We've got 3 right in the middle. Franklin is dead center in Johnson County. You've got Union and you've got Needham. We are looking at combining Franklin, Union, and Needham into one township. And what that will do for our school system is it is going to put all of our school students into one township. Now we are looking at having our public meeting on March 8th of 2021. Upon board approval, this will take effect January 1st of 2023, allowing the current township trustees to finish out their term, which will end December 31st of 2022. So I've talked with Kim Sperling, and it's really going to benefit our schools because of all of us being in one township. And if there's a need in the school system, the school will know exactly where to go instead of trying to determine what township that child or that family's from. Because we do offer the rental assistance, utility assistance, but right now Franklin is the only one in Johnson County that also has transitional housing for homelessness. So, and we're looking to expand that. But I think it's just going to be a benefit to our school system to have one township in covering all of our school system. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Mrs. Wells, if you could, before you leave, if you would get with Mrs. Betts or Natalie to give her those dates so we can get it into the minutes, please.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other comments?
I
Yes,
think
sir.
so. Yeah.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Not sure if this is the right time for me to mention this, but my name is Rob Seat, and I am here in support of Mr. Doty's plan that he's going to bring before you all regarding expanding attendance at the football stadium. We think it's a very reasonable, conservative approach. Went to the Whiteland game Friday night, and there were a ton of people there. And I wouldn't argue that that was the right thing to do, but certainly Franklin, we've been very, very conservative. Every other school in the county is allowing quite a bit more than we are allowed into the football stadium. So I would encourage you all to give Mr. Doty's very reasoned and conservative proposal a good considerate ear. The Franklin Grizz Club, which is the parent organization that supports the football team, we're represented here and in support of the proposal because we love our kids and and we love the mental health aspect of being able to have a few more fans in the football stadium. So, thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Any other comments? All right, thank you. We'll move to the consent agenda. Is there any from the board, any comments or questions around the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Christy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. With that, Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the motion passes. Thank you. We'll move to the superintendent reports. First item is back to school updates.
Thank you. And we're going to have Mr. Doty jump in right now because he's also supervising girls soccer. So we cannot clone him. So he's going to jump in and talk about the athletic extracurricular reopening plans. And just so everyone knows, I did pull this out separately from the reopening plans on the consent agenda in order to give him a chance to describe what we're talking about inside of the football. And then we will actually vote on it in the action items section of the agenda. So Mr. Doty, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clendenning, and thank you, School Board, for allowing me just a few minutes of your time. I know we're all aware of our current situation with the 250 maximum spectators at all of our athletic events. And then in the plan, if Indiana moves to stage 5.0, then we go to 25% of our capacity level within that bleacher seating. So what I'm proposing tonight is just to not go all the way to that 25%. Right now, obviously, we're still in 4.5, although the governor's, when you look at his stage 4.5, it may end on September 25th, but we do have a home football game coming up this Friday. And after seeing a couple home games for ourselves and really witnessing what we can do safely, I think we can go beyond the 250 because one of the things that's 250 on both sides, that's visitors and home spectators. So with the large rosters, with our band band members out there on the field performing at halftime, with all the students involved in a football Friday night, their parents and loved ones, their family members really want to be able to watch them perform, both on the field, for football and for band. So I guess what I'm proposing is just a compromise, a little bit more than the 250, but not all the way to the 25%. Right now, if we were to go to 25%, that would be close to 800 spectators allowed when we move to 5.0, but what we're proposing now would just be around 450 spectators, which is just about double where we're at right now, and that would allow, if you look at Parameridian, we hosted Parameridian and we also hosted Shelbyville. We only allowed 75 spectators for the visiting fans, which is, on a roster of a varsity football roster of 65 to 80 kids, we're not even allowing really one parent for our visitors to come in. And then on our side, it really becomes restrictive for our fans as well. So that's what we're proposing. I don't know if we can pull that up. If you see,
we can see it.
Can you see the diagram that I put down? I don't have it in front of me, and I apologize for that. But going on memory, you can see the bleacher seating and how many seats are available in each section. And what we're proposing is just to do 2 people per blue X that we have marked. Those same X's were put down for graduation, and this is not all of what we would do or what we did allow for graduations. And this is still less than what we had for graduation, but basically just having, there we go, it's up now. Thank you. So you'll see there in the yellow is what would be socially distanced spectators in each section, and then you'll see in the red wording out to the side of the visitor bleacher sections what my full proposal would be there. So we would get 150 on the visitor side, and then the remaining numbers would be on our home side. And I think, you know, Dr. Clendenning, he's been there and watched and witnessed for himself. And we had conversation with between the two of us and then Mr. Ahaus as we watched everybody up in the stands. And I will say that Mr. Seat spoke prior to me coming up here. We do have the Grizz Club. I've talked to them, and they are willing and they are active in monitoring themselves and holding each other accountable on staying socially distanced and sitting, you know, wearing masks and doing the right thing. So between Mr. Ahaus and Dr. Clendenning and I, we just feel like that we can do a little more than what we're doing right now in a safe manner. So, you know, while there are other schools doing a lot more than us, I'm a firm believer in we're going to do what we think is right for Franklin schools, and you know, not just because other schools in our conference or in our county are doing more. I will always be on that side of you know, let's do what we think we can do safely for Franklin. So that's where we're at. You know, and then as we think about other events that we're going to host, we host the sectional for cross country, we host a regional for cross country. In the wintertime, we're slated to host the girls basketball sectional. We always host the swim sectionals, and that one, those are going to be tough. Hopefully, by the time that happens in February, maybe we'll be beyond this. We hope, but boy, we don't know, right, at that point. So we really need to start thinking about, you know, how do we handle winter sports, and because it's indoors, and then obviously we know all the constraints that come with the winter season and being indoors. So those are things that are on the horizon with the sectionals for cross country. Those are coming up in October, not too far away, and we would also hope that we can do a little more than what the 250 is now, because we want to give those are our kids, but it's also an IHSA sanctioned event, state tournament series where, you know, we're going to have mom and dad coming from all over central Indiana to watch their son or daughter run on our course. So those are two big events coming up that I hope we can also do a little more than the 250 as well. So that's I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, but that's really the nuts and bolts of my proposal for increasing spectators.
I want to just make sure I'm reading this correctly so I understand. So the first row number, so for example, seating just says 312, so that's the total number of seats in that section, and then 72 is what you're suggesting to go in that?
Yes, that's correct, right.
And then, when our last home game was, how many did you have to turn away? Do you have any idea?
Now, we've been doing online ticketing, so nobody has been turned away,
Okay.
so to speak, at the gate, because I feel like we've done a fairly decent job of notifying everybody that you have to buy a ticket online,
Okay.
Because we're not selling at the gate. And that's how we're being able to ensure that we have the right number of people coming. And that's also that we're ensuring that they sit in the section where they purchase the ticket. Mm-hmm. And again, that's where the Grizz Club they're helping monitor that as well. Coach Call sent out an email. I drafted an email. He forwarded it, put his stamp of approval on it, sent it to the Grizz Club. They forwarded it on to their groups. And so we're really asking, hey, if you purchase the ticket in section A or C or whatever, please sit there. And then we also have handouts that we'll be handing out that with, you know, when you walk through as we redeem your digital ticket, you'll get a handout that really that tells it's 3 simple steps. And Robin Betts, I want to thank Robin for putting this together. It's a visual that it's easy to read. It's what our expectations are. And so that, we think that's going to help too. You know, as I've seen it, as I've witnessed just our own people, I think we've done a pretty good job of sitting, you know, socially distanced from non-family members, people in your own pod, so to speak, and then wearing a mask when you're around others. So I think with this increase in numbers, what you see here, I think it's still something we can do safely.
So are you looking for an approval or just?
Yeah, we will be coming back in just a little bit and asking for approval. I would also like to know, when we played Perry Meridian, you know, I was down in the end zone, and Steve went over and talked to their AD during this, and they said their 1,000 in the stands was too many. They would agree with that. Now, what the right number is, I think we can all decide what's best for our local community. But I think this proposal, it is conservative. You know, one thing that we did talk about maybe was moving the students to the end zone to even allow the parents to spread out a little bit more. And then the kids would still have to sit on bleachers, or stand on bleachers, stand on their X or whatever, and stay socially distant. So that may be something that they'll get to as well. But I do think that this is reasonable compared to looking at what we're able to do and maintain. And also, please note, this does not impact the middle school. The middle school is still staying with the number that we have proposed, and we're continuing to do that. We're also increasing the public service announcements, as well as Grizz Club agreeing to help. We're going to do more public service announcements to remind people, please wear your mask if you're around people that's not part of your bubble and your family. And Robin Betts created those for us as well.
The one thing I want to make sure, if we do agree to do this, is have a mechanism in place that you, Dr. Clendenning, can pull this back if it's not going the way we want it to go, right? So I don't want to blanket say, okay, if we approve this, this is the way it's going to be forever. I want an evaluation, if you will, after the Monday or Tuesday after the game. Give us a report. How did it go? Give us a couple paragraphs about what you would do differently if you know. I just want to know how it's going.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that as well, and I can share with Dr. Clendenning from my point of view, and if he's going to be there Friday night. A couple other things that we are planning to do, and we've already put one of these plans in place, is to have a separate entrance for visitors. So that is happening. Even though they're still redeeming their digital ticket, they come in by their bleachers. I've talked to the band boosters who run the concessions. I will set up a canopy that they can work under, and we'll put concessions on the visitor side as well. And then I can also contact the company here just north of Franklin, who does our portable restroom facilities for the cross-country course. We can have some additional ones brought to the football side, so that visitors, they can remain on their side and not there wouldn't be a need for them to come over to the home side. So that's one aspect where I think that's definitely something that we're planning to do for Friday night, should you all approve this. So that's one thing that we're gonna do.
Have you had parents or anybody not wear masks or give you pushback on masks?
No, we do have, we'll have some folks come in, and we've had some say, oh my gosh, I forgot my mask. And then we have this type that I'm wearing now. We have those in our ticket booths. And so the ticket taker, if we get that person that either forgot it or is not wearing it when they come up, or just kind of looks like they're not, they hand them one and say, and then going to hand them with that paper and our expectations. And so far, I have not had any conflicts that I've had to resolve up in the stands. Prepared to do that if I need to. And I've talked to Tony Harris down at our middle school AD about what that would look like if people are just being just rude about it, belligerent about it, just almost throwing it in our face that they're just not going to abide by our rules that we set down and our expectations. They're going to be asked to leave. And that would be no different than them not following any other rules for being good sportsmen during a game or anything like that. So we see that as just part of our supervisory role when we're putting on an event. So, but I have not dealt with that at this point. Everybody has been pretty good about it.
During the game, who is like watching to make sure that's happening?
I make routine walkthroughs,
Okay.
pass-throughs. We do have one police officer that we put at the gate. And then as I pass through, and I know Mr. Ahouse, he walks through as well. And as we pass through the visitor side and the home side, and more so on the home side, if we see some pockets or if we make some suggestions and we walk back and we see that they're not following those, then I would go ask our police officer just to stand down there with me, not going to ask them to go, issue any kind of citation or
Right.
anything. We know that's not going to happen, but just their presence as I go talk to those folks, it would be. I mean, as you know, I mean, you've been at events that just seeing those police officers that's a big help. So.
No doubt.
And the Grizz Club is going to help you do that walkthrough as well, right?
Yeah, and I've received good feedback from the Grizz Club. Mr. Seed is the president of the Grizz Club, and Tina Eason as well, vice president. So they both have talked about helping out, talking to making sure others know and understand and abide by our expectations.
Good.
Yep.
Can you write down, not at this moment, but can you formalize what that might look like? How many times you're going to go every quarter? 5 times a quarter? I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
That's a
not
great
for me to decide really. I
Yeah.
just would like something so that we can ensure it gets taken
Yeah.
care of.
Yeah, I can do it, and I know we're reading the PA announcements frequently. I have those scripted out, and I can also let you know how many times that we'll go up between Mr. Ahouse and I. We'll hit it. Come maybe a couple times a quarter. We'll come up with that number, whatever
Okay.
that is, and we can write that down. Put that in our plan.
Okay.
Yep.
One thing this does not change, though, is we're still not giving complimentary tickets away. One of the things that I think was, people ask, like, well, where are we? Well, the school board and the administration is basically staying away to honor moms and dads, and we're going to continue this structure, even though we're going to increase that. We're not giving complimentary, things away. I will tell you that I was there, Steve was there, and Bill was there. That was who was in attendance. Down at the middle school, I think there's a little bit of confusion in one of the games about that. We eliminated that. And that's just to honor the people that can come and watch the games. Right. We all would love to come watch. We all want to be fans. We all want to get back to normal. But it doesn't happen. And so this is just one more step that we can commit to as well. There are no season ticket passes. Bill's eliminated those. People that retired don't get in free. All those things that we would have normally have done, that still doesn't change in this new world. The tickets are going to go to moms and dads and grandparents to see the games, see the events.
And will you still be streaming that option
Yep.
also?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, we will still do that. And I'm receiving. I have not been able to watch a recording of it yet. Although I hear it's very good. I hear Thomas Crow, one of our junior students, is doing a great job with Mr. Powers, and all the students running the cameras, the video work itself, I hear is very good and high quality. So yes, we are going to continue the live stream, and I will send that link out. If you follow us on Twitter at Go Grizzly Cubs, you can find that link there. I'll share that out with you as well, and share it via email to all school. Yep.
I appreciate all the work that you and your team, how quickly you've put this all together, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Becky. Appreciate that. Yep. I know it may sound cliche, but we are all in this together, and
That's
it's,
right.
can't say it enough. So
Yep.
I appreciate everybody's help and working with me on this. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks so much.
I know you have to leave, but if something comes up, we'll call you.
Yeah, I'll just be outside.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Worland, hybrid model.
Yes, and I think Natalie is going to pull it up for us. It's also linked there to the agenda. There's a slide presentation. There we go. Yeah. And I'm going to stick with Bill's theme that we're all in this together And so we're going to continue that theme. It was interesting. I talked to a teacher at the high school today about the hybrid model and just where we are in the process. And she said, you know, Brooke, we get better every day. And I think that's what we want to hear, right? We get better every day. We get better every class session. So we know there have been lots of questions. We're still figuring out sometimes, some days, what the hybrid means, but I know parents have been asking. And so we are, just as a reminder to all of us, this is one of our phases with the ultimate goal of getting us back in to our school buildings, K through 12, full-time. And that's ultimately what we want. We believe that's the best learning environment for all of our students, as we are mindful of safety and the well-being of our staff and our students. I want to start by just saying thank you. Just like Bill and his team have been working on their front, we have leadership teams in our buildings, our principals, assistant principals, counselors, teachers, and our office staff who've been working hard to navigate change, and I would say very quickly in many cases. We've asked them to pivot and adjust, and I just want to thank them for that. I also want to thank parents. I know we have a few here or did, but there have been some parents who've been very collaborative, who've been helpful, positive, you know, what can we do? Because they also care about the well-being of their child, just like we do. So I want to thank those parents who have offered some positive, helpful feedback. But one thing I do want to say, and I want to help us all remember, is that when we do have a concern, go to the teacher. Go to the teacher first. We're finding it's the most effective and efficient way to start that communication. Go to the teacher, then work through that chain of command. Work up to the building principal, and then so on and so forth. So I just want to thank people for engaging in that process. We're going to move to student data. We're going to start with the middle school data. Thank you to Rita and Steve for surveying students and teachers in their buildings to get some feedback on where we are. For students at the middle school, we surveyed, and you will see that data there. Our hybrid and Apex students are both represented on this first slide. So those are the students who are on site plus those who are full-time virtual. That 14.4% of our K through 4 population, this is that middle school component included in these numbers. And when you look at this data, it's the same for the high school and the middle school. Your extremely negative is down here with the 1, and your extremely positive is up here at the right with the 5. And then your 3 is the, you know, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other, right? Sure. School's school, whether I'm in a building or online, it's still school. If you look at 3, 4, 5, you're at 81.6% rating the experience. If you just disregard the 3s, you've got your 18.3% at the negative end and your 38.7% at the positive end. So that's helpful data. There is room for growth, but gives us a sense of where our students at the middle school are. On the next slide, we wanted to know what was working well for our kids, right, for our learners. And so when you're at home on the hybrid, what type of instruction is really helping you learn the material? And so the responses you see on this slide are the top 3 responses. They represent 93.6% of the respondents. The first item is, I like it when our teacher records a lesson and I can go back and rewatch that lesson. You know, maybe I missed it and I need to see it 2 or 3 times as I'm working through my assignment or studying for my test. Number 2 was, I really like it when they just tell me everything I need when I'm with them on site. They hand me the material, post it in Google Classroom, and I can go and just do my own thing when I want to do it. I know I need to, you know, be at school and be there to take attendance, but I really want to work at my own pace. And then there's that third group who said, I just want to, this was 25.8%, I just want to live Google Meet, I want to sit and just follow it online, each class online. So that was our middle school data. If we then kick to the high school data, we start with that same first graph, okay? So again, these are our hybrid students and our Apex students, 705 responses. You've got your negative on your left, positive on your right. In some ways, very similar data. 83.1% of the respondents or a 3 or higher. If you disregard that, school, I have no strong feeling one way or the other, and you look at the negative end, you have 16.9% of the respondents. And then on the high end, you have 43.7% of the respondents. So these are our students participating in the survey at the high school level. Okay? Almost 50% at that high end. Then similar data, it's displayed a bit differently here in a pie chart that we saw at the middle school, but we're looking only at our hybrid students. And 95.2% are in that blue block, that red block, and that gold block. So on that blue block, now you're seeing a flip. The first two are flipped from the middle school. At the high school, almost 45% of our students are saying, you know what, just tell me what I need to do. I want to do my own thing. And honestly, this doesn't surprise me. We saw the same thing in the spring, right? They're high school students. They want to work at 9 o'clock at night, right? I want to sleep at 9 o'clock at night. They want to work at 9 o'clock at night. The second rating for 31.1% was that I want to see that video. I want to replay that video. I want to come back to it. I need that to help keep me on track, keep me where I need to be. And 19.2% were those in that third group. I want to just sit and watch the teacher instructing the kids in the classroom on the Google Meet while the instruction is happening. Okay, so you're seeing that diversity there among the students. We then said to students, on the student data side, okay, if it's working, what's working? So the teachers that are doing a really good job, those classes where you think this is going really well in this hybrid space, what is it that's going well? And when I look at this data, and I'll give you some information on the back end as to what these comments mean, but a lot of it's about clarity and communication. And I know also from just experiencing this COVID space, how much that need for clarity and communication is reinforced when we lose that ability to be together in the same space. You lose some of that ability to communicate. When students talk about organizing classrooms and being prepared for class, when you dug into the data, what they said was, I need a clear calendar, syllabus, timeline, and expectations. I want to know what to do, when when it's due, when my quiz is, and what it's on. Clarity, a lot of clarity and a lot of communication. When we talked about making content and instruction engaging, what they said was, I need things explained clearly. I need instruction that allows me to do some of my own work on my own time. So it was interesting how they defined some of these terms. And then I'll just do the last one. Google Meets are engaging and productive. Students talked about use my time, make it valuable, keep it short and sweet, and give me time to ask questions. Give me time to access the teacher when I have a question. So this data has been very helpful. It has informed some of the next components that you will see. Before I get to some of the action items though, teacher data very quickly I want to show you, and Dr. Clendenning may get to some of this here in a minute. We did survey the staff about comfort level as to where they are as well with regards to the 5 phases of our reentry plan. And you will see the middle school data on this slide, keeping in mind we're in phase 2. So we're becoming more comfortable with phase 2. Right now, phase 2 is what we know, right? It's what we know. This does not apply to those students in our parent choice virtual space, okay? If you are a student in a parent choice virtual space, K through 12, you're in that space for the remainder of the semester, okay? Last Friday was our deadline. So if you're in that space, you will not switch out of that space until the spring semester. So as we talk about phases, I just want to be very clear that we're talking about the on-site learning environment. And then you can also see the high school data, very similar to what you're seeing at the middle school. Again, phase 2, the phase that we're in right now, is the highest ranking phase. And you'll see how some of those others stack up there. Current action steps. And I want to talk about the word current for a second because I intentionally used that word. I think it's important to remember that through the last 4 weeks, what was current in week 1 was not the same current in week 4. This has been an evolving process of improvement. Dr. Clendenning talks a lot about plan, do, study, adjust, and Six Sigma. This has been a prime example of how we plan, we do it, we adjust it, right? We study it, we adjust it. We surveyed teachers and staff week 2. As a district, we surveyed again at the middle school and high school level. Related, we surveyed students. Again, we are really trying to watch our data and get a sense of what's working and what's not working. This is really new for many of us. So I was intentional, and I just want to be mindful of that. So 5 things that we're doing, we have in place, and we're open to other ideas and thoughts. Some of these have come from families, and so I just want to thank those, again, who are partnering with us. Just as a reminder, what was current before school even started is that we established a set of guidelines and expectations for how to organize a Google Classroom space, and that was delivered to all of our certified staff. I want to thank Ray Lane, our secondary technology coach. I want to thank Katie Senzinger. She's a middle school teacher. They worked together to prepare this resource for our teachers. It had visuals and audio. It's fabulous. We continue to send that as a reminder and a tool. Again, it's something people can continue to come back to. Number 2, we have a checklist for Google Classroom. It was prepared by our colleagues at the middle school, so I want to thank our leadership team there. It has been used and will continue to be used by our administrative teams to monitor Google Classroom. Again, we're looking for clarity and clear communication. So that's why that tool is important. It addresses some of the very concerns we've heard from parents and what we saw in the student surveys. Item 3 is the same, trying to achieve the same goal. By the end of this week, all teachers at the high school will use one of the 2 weekly calendar models that are attached there, and you can open those and see those links to help students understand what's expected if you're in a virtual space, you're on site, or it's a Wednesday with everybody virtual. Teachers are really trying to make an effort to be organized and communicate. Number 4, starting Wednesday of this week, we have worked with our partners at the Central Indiana Educational Service Center. They are going to host a 4-part professional development series for us. The first one is specifically geared to hybrid and virtual spaces. We will then be looking at student engagement, lesson design, and accessibility, all in the virtual environment to provide best practices and resources for our teachers. And finally, we've partnered with Sylvan Learning Center through the support of, and I want to thank the Franklin Education Connection. This is an important week for them as well, so big thank you to them. The Brannigan Foundation for offering a free SAT prep course for our juniors and seniors who are sitting for that exam November 7th or later. So those prep courses start later this month on the 27th. Parents can register online at sylvanlearning.com. I am happy to answer any questions. I am open to ideas and suggestions. And again, I just want to remind everyone, please direct questions, concerns, and thoughts first to that classroom teacher and then up through that chain. We do want to respond.
Thank you. This was super helpful. And it's comforting to see the responses from the staff and the students are kind of all aligned. Does the Google Classroom, does that record?
Yes.
So a kid can go back and watch?
You can record a Google Meet. So if you're teaching a class and you're in a session, yes, you can record.
And as the kid or the teacher has to do it?
You know, that may be a Matt question.
I'm just wondering, because we had people say they wanted to do the Google Meet, but then there were some that said they wanted to have it on video. And so if you're able to record it and go get it,
Yeah.
That would be kind of a two bird, one stone thing.
Yeah. I know the teacher can, Ryan. I don't know if the student can. Matt, can a student record a Google Meet right now?
I apologize, I was listening on here. What was the question?
Can a student record a Google Meet?
The first one in the meet can record. The one who sets up the meet can record. But there's only one recording per session.
So can a student record if a student comes in and I'm the third person in the room? Thank you, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's what I'm here for. So the question is, can the student record? If the student creates a meet, they absolutely can because they own the meet, right? There's also some conversation about who's first into the room. So the meet, the first one into the meet. So whoever creates the meet can record the meet.
So if I'm in Mrs. Kirby's classroom, as a student, I'm the first one in, I can go ahead and record it even if Mrs. Kirby says.
Miss Kirby's the host though, right?
Right.
But can the student hit record also?
They can hit record, but everybody in that meeting sees the REC in there, so there's no confusion as to whether it's being recorded or not.
So a student,
And obviously, the teacher can take action based on seeing that symbol that it's being recorded. So at no time is it being recorded, and the teacher isn't aware of it.
I guess my point is, am I missing something? Why can't we just have them all recorded and you can just go back and, if you didn't understand what Ms. Kirby said, you can go back and get to it?
Yeah.
That's the question.
We can do that.
Can we do that?
It's okay to record.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that would be a helpful, based on this data, I think that would be a helpful addition
Well,
to
and
the
Google
practice.
is about to change a lot. There's a few things that I want to push out, but as soon as I do, Google's going to come out with
Sure.
So we're keeping communication going with teachers on those new and upcoming features. There's certain things that we go ahead and push out, made by third parties, but here in September, October, and by the end of the year, they're going to come up with a number of features that will be built in to help manage that type of stuff.
So I think what Ryan is asking, just to clarify, can we just record the class immediately, and then a kid wants to go back and watch something, they have it archived already?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
Because if your internet breaks or your mom, whatever, and you miss something, you know,
Yes.
you can go to it.
Absolutely.
That might relieve some stress.
And we have enough storage to start recording
Absolutely.
that?
The nice thing about the educational suite on Google, it's unlimited storage.
Good, okay.
Great question.
And we also, just to remind everyone, Matt did come to us early on, right before when school started. We went ahead and upped our pipe or fiber into this building to allow that communication opportunity.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for the long walk you took. up the
Thank
stairs.
you, Matt.
All right, any other questions for Brooke on the hybrid model?
What's the plan? Is there going to be a frequency in which you'll resurvey, or I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just asking what your
No,
thoughts
that's
are.
a great question, Ryan. We will resurvey. Right now, the surveys were second week, the third week. We would probably wait 2 more weeks and do another one. I mean, of course, it depends on where we are and what's happening, but yeah, we will continue to do that. We will have to, I think, and need to and should.
I would encourage us to continue that feedback loop and that focus group discussion no matter what phase we're in. Because we need to hear the good and the stressors and opportunities in our journey, so we'll continue to do that.
This was super helpful, Brooke. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right, we'll move to the next item then, the banking services RFP.
Yes, that's mine. So we solicited proposals for our banking services back in August and we were very happy with the response we got. We got proposals from 7 different banks. We've narrowed that down to a top 3 with a priority to those that would bring in more investment income. And so we have interviews planned with those 3 banking institutions next week. So my hope is that we will have a recommendation for the board at the October board meeting, and hopefully for a transition starting in November.
Look forward to that. Any questions for Tina? Okay, we'll move to the next item, the collective bargaining timeline.
Yes, so the collective bargaining season will begin this week with formal bargaining meeting happening with FCTA on Wednesday. The board will host a public meeting on October 5th, and then we'll go into the ratification stage and hopefully wrap things up by October the 9th.
Just for the public, I believe that we discussed that October 9th, we're going to move that time to the afternoon instead of that 7 a.m.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll publish a new schedule here shortly.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Our corporate financial report.
Yes, so I provided a financial report as of August 31st, which is about the 2/3 mark in the fiscal year. So if you look at the column all the way to the right, the percentage spent, you really want to see numbers less than 67% in this column, which, with the exception of two or three lines that are barely over the 67%, in some cases we're way under budget. I do want to say that this is probably the best financial report that you'll see all year, because this is following a 2-month closure and the summertime. So we have a lot of bills being paid right now and through September. So it will look very different the next time you see it. You know, we're watching it closely and everything, but this looks as though we're going to have a lot of money left at the end of the year, but we've had a lot of expenses in getting the buildings and everyone ready to go back to school. So you'll see that coming in very soon. Any questions on that?
No, thank you, Tina.
You're welcome.
Okay, the last item on this section is our benchmarking for reopening.
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Lamb. Just going to go through our 5 benchmarks and what we have been talking about over the last several months about how are we going to determine when we're going to move to a different phase or retreat backwards in the phase structure. Just to remind everyone, we have 5 phases, with the very first phase being all virtual. The 5th phase being everybody here a full day, 5 days a week. And then we're in phase 2 right now that has K-6 with us 5 days a week, 7 through 12 in a hybrid model with Wednesdays being virtual. Phase 3, still the 2 virtual days on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, but everybody would come back on that Wednesday. Phase 4 would have everybody back 4 days a week with the virtual day on Wednesday to allow us to continue to clean and those type things. And as I said, phase 5. So we're going to look at the data that I'm seeing right now as we make decisions. I look at 3 different sites for the COVID trending. And if you remember, it's not just positivity that we're looking at. We're looking at ICU and hospital and emergency runs. The only thing that we're not considering on our dashboard that actually is a part of that are the deaths related to COVID. And remember that when Dr. Mormon was sharing with us, he said that is such a lagging indicator of what takes place, that it doesn't really allow you to stay up in real time. So we decided not to do that. So the first one is Regan Streep Institute, which is out of Eskenazi Hospital up in Indianapolis. Next slide, please. And I apologize for how small this is, but in the PDF version, I did make a highlight for Johnson County. And on this date of September the 8th, which was last week, you'll notice all of the trending data is green. It's going down. And that is what we want to see, obviously. When we started back before school, we had reds going up. And I think the social distancing, the masks, as well as hygiene practices are really contributing. Next slide is on September the 10th. Once again, we see good data points. We see the data even going further down on Regan Streep site. And then on September the 11th, which was Friday, 1 week before we had talked about making that next decision as we look forward, continue to going down. So Regan Streep, in a nutshell, would tell us Johnson County is trending down, and it looks like you can begin to think about some possibilities moving forward. So what does Regan Streep look like this week? And that's the next slide. Well, one of the things that we do know it's happening, we are seeing an uptick in positive cases in Johnson County. A couple factors to that. One is the college students are back. Number two, Labor Day was last Monday, and so this does attribute to if someone did pick up the virus, the normal protocol and looking at when they would start showing would be 5 to 7 days out. So that's a possibility on Thursday or Friday. And the other thing is, as we look at that, we are offering free testing at the fairgrounds. So more people are actually just getting tested. But that red number is for the number of positive cases. But if you look at hospital, ICU, and emergency runs, those are all still staying in the green. So we're starting to see some data, and we'll continue to look at that as we travel forward. The next one is the Harvard group, and they have a pandemic site for every county in the entire nation. And so if you look at their very first one, this is Johnson County, and this was on September the 8th. They have a division of 4 from green to red. They would have us in the yellow, which says continue to cautiously move forward in your plans to reopen and move and do what you need to do for your safety and well-being. They had Johnson County at 5.9, and that 5.9 is a positivity rate pertaining to 100,000 people in their modeling. So we were at 5.9 on the 8th. I then backed out the slide one step so you can see the state of Indiana, because remember, Dr. Mormon also said to us, don't just look at Johnson County because the virus has no idea where the county line is. Right. What's happening in and around us. And so you can see that on the 10th, this is what Indiana looked like. Natalie, can you blow that slide up a little bit to like 120? Yeah, this. Okay, that's good. And then just move it back on the center it back, drag it back just a little bit. There you go. Thank you. So one of the things that when you see that, you'll see some counties that are actually in red in what's happening in and around us. On this one, we actually, on the 10th, went down a little bit again. We were at 5.9, and we're at 5.2. The county right above us, I believe, is Marion. And then the one above that, and also in orange, is Hamilton. So we know that Hamilton, Hendricks, they continue to run hotter than we do in terms of the information from the Harvard model. On the 11th, we went down again to 4.9. So last Friday, and you can notice that also Marion County for the first time slips into the yellow. So we're saying, you know what, there's some good data things that we're seeing across our region, and we're region 5, actually, if anyone wants to know. And then today, what happened? Well, just as we saw on Regan Streep, this went up. We went back to 5.5, which would say that the data is similar. Now, I know this is going to come up because I had a teacher say, hey, I looked at your slides and the data points are not all the same, and they're not. Because the way that the data is getting to these different sites, they're not the same trending data. Right. Jeff Sewell and I talked about that, so I realize that, but we're looking at the big picture and the trend lines to say, are they showing us the same thing? And so that's what we're looking at there. We are, it's over 2,100 cases in Johnson County. That's going to continue to go up as we travel forward. And the last one, after we set our benchmarks, they got some pushback at the state level and said, you need to help schools make decisions at the Indiana Health Department. So the Indiana Health Department said, fine, we're going to go with the color coding system as well. And so they created this for us in blue. They have a blue, yellow, orange, and red, similar to the Harvard structure. And they, one thing that I don't necessarily like about theirs, we're going to get to see only a week. The others, I can actually drill each day. I can watch what's happening to really see that trend line. The state of Indiana decided we're going to do a week at a glance, so that's what we're getting to see. So this was actually a week ago Sunday when you see here. So our positivity rate was 4.18 in Johnson County. But you'll notice that a lot of the state was showing blue. Things were starting to actually trend well in the state model. On the 10th, we dropped down again in the state of what the state says on a 7-day all testing to 3.57. So once again, they would say, if you're just looking at positivity rate, anything below 5 is a good score, and you can continue to proceed and move forward. And then on the 11th, we were at 3.57. And then today, when I pulled it, I gave a different view because I wanted to show the rest of the state, and also because it wasn't changing, I wanted to show you there's one more slide back that I could see. And this one actually shows us we have 19 new tests positive, and so that kind of correlates back to that Harvard and to what we're seeing in Regan Streep. So what's it telling us? It's telling us that last week was a pretty good week. And just like what's happening in the virus, we're seeing that when people congregate together and end up in places, the virus does spread. And then we go back to what Brooks' data showed us, and what the teachers were saying was like, the hybrid model may not be perfect, but right now, 80% and 73% of our faculty say, hey, Dave, really consider strongly the data before we move, because we don't want to get whiplash.
Yep.
We don't want you to move us, and then, all of a sudden, I got to hit the real button, and now we're back, and maybe going back to all the way virtual. At least right now, we know. The other thing that's not in our benchmarking, but I do want to talk about positivity rates, and when we get a COVID positive test right now in our school district, when that does happen, and we've had 5 of them to date, we have only had to sequester 5 kids because of our hybrid model. The other thing that's winning is none of the 5 sequestered students actually were in close contact during a school setting. We had kids that were in extracurricular athletes. We had some kids riding to and from school, which makes sense. That's close contact, right? You're in the car with that person. And we had an overnight event, sleepover. None of it related to us. The other schools that are back in full session, they've not had a lot more positive cases. They have had a huge number of sequestered students. And I will tell you, if we could check their pulse of their stress, when I talk to my colleagues, their stress is high. Our stress is high too, but maybe not to that same capacity. We didn't have that as one of the benchmarks, like how many sequestered, how many not. But as you know, we are sharing that on a real-time basis, so that does help inform us what's happening. So then what are the other benchmarks that we talked about? Remember, non-COVID. We said, well, how are we doing with masks? The COVID rules of school, substitute teachers, substitute bus drivers, and can we continue to function? What about indoor air quality? I want to give kudos to Jeff Sewell. We were one of the first ones in the state to be talking about indoor air quality, and now everybody's saying, hey, you know what? You might want to think about indoor air. So kudos to him. And then our cleaning protocols with our sanitizer. So this is the first control chart you're going to see with regard to mask compliance. We have our principals doing checks, and they just tally up how many kids are compliant, adults, et cetera, in the buildings. And you can see we're at 94% compliant last week. We are doggone good at this. We have one of the traveling teachers in Earlywood came to our district, and she said, you know, I know that when I come to Franklin, I have to wear a mask. The others, not necessarily so. So we are doing really well with this. So on this one, a big check mark that, you know what, that would trend that things are going okay. We can begin thinking forward. I will tell you, this next one has me really concerned about life in our benchmark world. And that is the fill rate for substitute teachers. Yeah. We are only able to fill half of our substitutes when teachers are out. And you're saying, well, how is school getting done? Our school counselors, our building principals, our special ed assistants are being pulled to allow us to continue to function in that setting. And remember, we've said we're not going to merge classes together because that would destroy our contact tracing. We're at 50%, and I checked with Michelle today, and that's about where we were again today. That has a concern for me if we move up or do whatever, because if we have a large flux of teachers out, I'm not sure how we keep going.
I agree.
That's a real struggle. I know the teachers also feel that, you know, because when they do have their prep, they need their prep because they're trying to do hybrid and trying to do virtual and all these different capacities. So that's a concern. Next slide, please. The other one is bus drivers. We have to use Doug, Billy, and Jeff, so the two mechanics, our director, and Patty, as bus drivers almost every single day. We've had buses would pick up kids 40 minutes late right now because subs calling in and just not being able to get that, and then we have to go back and get the kids. And that's great, but remember, we have assigned seats, we have all these protocols in place that is requiring us, if we don't have bus drivers, will also cripple our system in benchmarking. So I will tell you, out of the 5 benchmarks, COVID rules is a red flag for us right now. It's a concern for us. And then...
Well, say that again?
The COVID rules one, so the rules that we have around COVID, like wear your mask is one rule, but substitute teachers, not sharing classes, making kids sit in their assigned seats on buses. When we don't have bus drivers and we don't have substitute teachers, those get thrown out and we struggle.
Got it.
Cleaning protocols and indoor air. Talked to Steve Guerra, who is helping us with the indoor air control chart. He said things are in spec right now and doing well. He needs really about another week or two to be able to get that chart so we can give it to you to look at. But in talking to him today, he said it's looking good with indoor air. And just a reminder, we did change the mechanism for controlling our system. We've added hours at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day so that we have clean air moving through the system. And so in a normal world, remember, as soon as the kids left, we just shut the system down and let it rise back up, and we didn't start it back up until school started. So now we're actually doing both ends. So we're in spec and doing quite well. The cleaning protocols, we've had one little glitch, and it's actually not on the cleaning side, it's how you record it. Some custodians were counting every task, so if I was going to go clean a room, I counted every desk that I cleaned. Where one was saying, I cleaned the room. So the data wasn't right, but actually they're doing the data, so Jeff is correcting that. And right now in cleaning protocols, we are monitoring also the sanitizer that we purchased and judging how much is going down. We have 28 barrels. I will tell you, the transportation went through a barrel in 2 weeks. They're doing their job. They're cleaning between routes and at the end of each route, doing a phenomenal job with that. Obviously, Union Elementary is not going to go through their barrel nearly as fast as the high school. And so we are monitoring that, and they're doing a very good job. Teachers are also using that sanitizer during the passing periods. And I know that if we escalate and move forward to an all-on, teachers are saying, okay, how am I going to clean all these desks if something happens? So there's some things that we would need to put in place and procedures in place as we think about moving forward. So with that, those are our dashboard points. I applaud the board and the principals and the teachers for having this as a metric for us to look at. Remember on Friday we said we would look to see what we're going to do, and if, and I want to say just loudly, if we were to change, the 28th is the date that we would change. We're going to give a 10-day break in information so that we can make that planning process procedure work and then move forward. Also, another change in reopening plans, we're going to start looking at the data each week as we travel forward and still have that 10-day lag. But as Brooks said, and as we all know, the best instruction is with the kids and the teacher in the classroom. We want that. Mom and Dad want that. And I would even say the kids want that. We also want to be safe. Remember, we had 3 goals: mitigate the virus, grow the kids, and keep everybody safe. We're mitigating the virus. We are growing kids. Is it perfect? It's not perfect, but we're working on making it that so. And we're keeping kids and faculty safe. I'll take any questions you might have on the benchmarks. And once again, you'll be seeing these each month, as well as throughout the journey on our notes section.
I appreciate you really take a methodical look at this instead of just kind of going off feelings and pressure and whatever, but you're looking at it from a quantitative perspective and really being able to make a decisions that's right for our community. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I appreciate everything that you're doing, and you know, with a student in school right now, you're right, it's not perfect, but it's better than being in here and worrying every day if he's going to come home and be sick or what who's spreading what to who, and so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So throughout the week, this week, I'll be in contact with each of you, and we'll talk, and then on Friday. I do have a meeting set up with Mr. Ahaus and Mrs. Holman later in the week to go through the data again, because obviously they're boots on the ground. They're getting to see it in real time is what we're doing. And I'll just say one other caveat that I am thinking about is we have fall break coming. Just like we had 1 day of Labor Day, guess what? We have 5 days of fall break. That is I'll just say I think it's a concern. Well, people are going to go on vacations and do different things, and when our numbers go down and get better, that's when we also get lax. So that's something we'll be in conversation about. So thank you very much. That concludes my report.
Is there guidelines that Dr. Mormon can share with us to help us on that fall break for the reentry? What's the health department? What's his stance for schools for reentry after fall break?
He will not see. He would say, "I'm not going to tell you which counties to quarantine if they go travel."
Okay.
But he did say to remind all parents that, really think about traveling. He said it's probably not a good time to do that, but you know what? If parents go, they go.
Right.
And I would just reiterate, when you do go and you come back and you're feeling not well, please don't come back to school.
So have we communicated that yet? As people are starting to make plans, or they've already have their plans for fall break, can Rita and Steve send out? Well, it would be all the principals.
Yeah,
Can we send out in the newsletters?
Yeah.
Right?
We haven't done that yet.
Good
Mrs.
point.
Betts is here. We will do that. And I see her smiling through her mask.
We
Thank
can
you, Mrs. Betts.
remind people about e-learning that week too, so we could do it all in one.
Okay. Yeah, we do have to remind everybody that 3 days of the fall break are actually e-learning days.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, moving into action items. Our first item is the football event guidelines that Mr. Doty covered earlier. Is there any questions that you've thought of since Mr. Doty shared his plans?
I don't have a question, and I think we hit this well enough, but I just think it's really important that just because we're expanding the amount of spectators does not mean we're relaxing social distancing, or that this is somehow the pandemic is over. And so, like Andy said, we're going to press into the Grizz Cub parent club. We're going to press into Mr. Doty. Like, we've got to hold people accountable and make sure that this is not some free-for-all. And to Brian's point, because if it becomes that, we're going to have to pull the plug and get right back to where we are. I'm going to vote yes, but I think we need to be really vigilant in how this
Okay.
actually operates.
And I think, David, if you could, for Mr. Doty, if he could come back in October with those winter sports
Yep.
plans,
That's
because that's going to be a bigger
Yeah.
That's
challenge
gonna be
than
tough.
even what we
Yeah,
have now. Right.
he will be coming back in October to do another presentation, and it's going to be tough. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna, right now, we know it is.
Right.
And
So,
two things I requested.
Yep.
One is to define the, what that walk around looks like.
Yep, I have
right?
that.
And then the second one is, and maybe it's in Friday notes, but just a summary of how that went.
Yep,
So we just keep an eye on things.
Yep.
Those are great points.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay, so with that, do I have a motion for the football event guidelines?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Brian. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes, so the motion passes. Move next to the public hearing for our 2021 budget.
Yes, so this meeting serves as our public hearing for the 2021 budget. The Form 3 that you see before you has been posted to our website and to the Gateway on the state website. That occurred before August 20th, so within our guidelines. Just a couple of things. Nothing has changed since you saw this form in August. We're still requesting a $61 million budget. I want to reemphasize, this form makes it appear as though we're asking for large increases. But again, in this phase, we ask for higher tax rates, knowing that the AV will adjust those down again. For example, in 2019, we requested $2.21, and we received approval for $1.60. This year, we're asking $2.29, knowing that it's probably going to be around $1.61. So we're essentially going to land on about the same amount of money that we received in 2020.
So forgive me, I need to suspend the school board meeting. As Tina said, I need to open up a public meeting on this item. If there's any public comments, please step up to the podium, make those comments. Okay, seeing none, we can close the public portion of that, and I'll reopen the school board now, and we'll take a motion for this action item.
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Becky. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. Ryan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, the next item we have is a resolution to adopt the capital projects plan.
Our capital projects plan has also been posted to both our website and the Gateway. Our plan includes $90,000. $50,000 of that is to improve our wireless access components and a firewall upgrade, so both IT related. So I would request your approval to move forward with the capital projects plan for 2021.
Okay, any questions for Tina on that? Do I have a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Christy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Becky. Ryan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Last item under action items, our resolution to adopt a bus replacement plan.
This is also a plan that needs to be approved by the board tonight as a matter of routine. This is very typical. Each year, we plan to replace 3 school buses, and this year is no exception. We will build this into the budget so that we have approval for it, but we'll also reevaluate where we are within the budget year and whether or not we can afford to buy 3. We may reduce that or eliminate that depending on where we are in the budget. We have in the past couple of years, thanks to the VW grants, have been able to replace 8 buses in the last 2 years. And virtually 2 of those we didn't have to pay for. So we're pretty far along in our replacement plan, so this will just keep us in line with that.
All right. Any questions for Tina on that? Okay, do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. Brian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Then we'll move into the discussion section where we have the first opportunity to review policies.
I want to thank Ryan for spending 2+ hours with us.
It was a long time.
While we traveled through this section policy. And a couple, the first 2 I want to highlight, but the rest, really, the substantive changes came with law changes that were required. But the first one is employment administrative, in addition to the superintendent. Remember the law change last year with regarding severance packages for the superintendent? This one is just following along to do that. But the thing that we need to note is who is considered an administrator. We spent, 20 minutes in this conversation deciding, do you have your license and that's your administrator, or is it your position that makes you an administrator? So we decided we'll go ahead and present this, and then we're going to redo the organizational chart and apply the appropriate people who would be considered administrators. Because like right now, it'd be Brooke and I. That'd be it, the way that we have it. Well, we know Tina's our CFO, so that doesn't make she's an administrator. So we just need clarity on that as and it's not been changed in many years. As we were going through it, it didn't make sense and all them. And also there were some people that were listed as supervisors and some listed as directors, and it was very complicated. So we're going to reduce that and change the org chart, but we need to go ahead and get the policy moving forward. So that's why it's here. The second one is Title IX. As you know, the Trump administration redid Title IX. It made a lot of publicity about that and really created equity for everybody is what they were trying to do, both for the allegation of the victim's allegation and the alleged perpetrator. But in doing that, it created a lot of other policy structural changes that we had to work through. And so we have done that, but we need you to, this is one I would encourage you to look over. One change that I think we need to add is a second person to help. They're recommending having both male and female person be available to investigate. Obviously, if it's a Title IX situation, you want maybe the same gender sex to deal with that person to help. And remember, they then they send the recommendation to me. Then I bring it on to you all at that regard if it's going to go forward in that process. We've also eliminated any hearing. So my bringing it to you is just information. There is no appeal of what we decide. They have to leave. We're voting for them to leave and have to go to the court structure and not allow hearings. Remember, we did that for expulsions. I was right when I got here, I think, Roger. They did away with expulsion hearings. And so we're not allowing that in this one either as a change that fits in the structure. So those are 2 that I want to highlight that we had talked extensively about. But if you could please look over those in October, we will vote to move forward. We also have had to require training of our staff, and we've created a separate website. It's listed as Title IX at franklinschools.org for anybody that has a reason to believe there was a violation either of them or someone that they know. Just like in the DCS cases where it's if we know of an abuse situation, by law we have to report. Now we have that same stipulation with Title IX. It's the very first time that's happened. So all of our adults in our setting, if they believe there's a Title IX issue, they must report it. And the must report is to Michelle Bright. That's who they report to. So those are some things that we had talked about that we need clarity on, but this will completely revamp our policy 2266. Roger, anything I missed on that in summary from?
No, sir.
Yep.
I'm sure it added to your time, but thanks for the summary now that you're included in here
Yeah.
on the changes. That,
We're gonna,
that helps as we go
Neola's
through it.
changed, and we're going to start doing this every time for you. Before, you guys used to get them embedded as a PDF with like scribbles on them. We're not going to do that. We're going to show you what the recommendation is, and then Ryan is the actual one that's drilling down to each one and getting the scribbled marks for us.
All right, any questions? None. Moving into the board administrative comments. Open up for the board. Any comments to share this evening? No? Dr. Clendenning?
Just a reminder on that timeline, we are changing both, I think both times if we agreed to. And after the October 5, we are going to have a work session on the budget as we talk about the changes that we had this year that reflected that difference from the past year of taking out circuit breaker, possible reductions, et cetera. That is on is that the 5th or the 4th?
The 5th.
The 5th. So we'll get that time. And as we said, we will have a light dinner for that because it will be over that hour.
Okay, moving into the calendar then.
Just a reminder, we do have e-learning days on October 12th, 13th, and 14th, and I would also thank Dr. Warland for her work on the calendars, which were approved a few minutes ago, but that's been great work to accommodate. And we do have a traditional fall break on the 15th and 16th, and then next year we go back to the week. But parents, I would please ask that you consider your travel arrangements during this COVID era and the impact that it could have on our school and as we move forward.
Okay, with that, I'll open it up for public comments. You can step up and make a comment on the agenda or any of the topics we've discussed tonight, or any additional item that's on your mind. We'll have give you an opportunity for 2 minutes. Step up to the podiums here that are in front of the stage.
Mrs. Betts, were there any online comments? Thank you.
Okay, seeing none, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everybody.